The idea of hidden content in a video game is something that really interests me. The idea that developers put something in the game that is not meant to be experienced by most players, something that only the most detail-oriented, dedicated fans will ever actually find. Now, Portal 1 and 2 are really mysterious games in their own right, that not only the story behind it is mysterious and how it fits into the Half-Life world and how Aperture operates and everything like that, but there is hidden content in those games, with the whole Rat Man in Portal 2 and how has his paper trail left behind and you can read a little bit about his life and all this stuff that a lot of players will never know about. And there's an enormous ARG, an alternate reality game that was used to advertise Portal 2 and to unveil different aspects of it. So this shows that Valve is very keen on integrating mysterious aspects into the Portal world. Now, the lab, which takes place in the Portal universe, seems to have the potential to have a lot of hidden content in it. Not only did we discover that there are 2 hidden rooms in the lab that weren't initially advertised, which I'll show you, but just by taking a look at the lab's world with all the animations that are going on, the constant audio, there's just like little paper flyers and things hidden all over the place. It feels like there could be a lot more to the lab. I'm not saying that there is anything that I'm particularly looking for, but I want to believe that there is more to the lab than initially meets the eye. So I'm going to jump into the lab and I'll point out all that we know so far about it and point out some points of interest within the game about where we could start looking and trying new things in hopes that there's more to the lab than we initially realize. So I'm going to put the Vive on and get ready, and I'll see you in the lab. One other thing that I forgot to mention is that in the description below, you'll see a link to an image gallery that will consist of screenshots that I take while running around the lab so that you can see for yourself what sort of extra details there are, and you can help investigate to see if there is more to the lab than meets the eye. So before I start the lab, I just want to warn you that this game tends to crash a lot while I'm recording video, so you're going to see a lot of cuts in between. And another note is that right when I start the game, it'll show the big spherical Valve intro sequence, which has an interesting aspect of it, that behind you is an interactable valve that you can grab onto and rotate, and I haven't found any purpose for it, but it's worth noting that there is an interactable element that we don't know what it's for. Might have a purpose in the future. So here's the intro, and then here's the valve. You can grab onto it, rotate it counterclockwise, clockwise. There's some kind of big like compression chamber thing that you can't interact with. We don't know what it's for. And the intro screen stays exactly the same for everybody. You got the mug guy on the left, you got the paper dude on the right, with the yellow flowers on the little nightstand, and the 2 recorders. You can kind of see some like observation decks or something like that way in the distance. Here's an isometric map of the whole lab, and it seems to be consistent with the actual in-game one. And the first thing to notice here is that once you've completed all 4 of these, they'll all be checked off as complete. You don't actually have to complete them per se. I believe you just have to open them up at least once. And then this image on the right changes every time. And the images are pretty loaded, in my opinion. Like they all have a certain feeling, a certain message being said about them. And there's a lot of them. I still haven't seen all of them. There's so many. Like this one I have not seen. So every time you load up or exit or go in and out of different games, keep an eye out on what this image is. Maybe it has a deeper meaning. And you can actually erase and draw anything that you want on this board too. I mean, I really doubt that it would have you actually draw something specific, but it's just a little bit of interactivity that's worth noting. Now we're currently in Pocket Universe Lab number 8. So you hear the announcer talk about a lot of other Pocket Universes or whatever. Different numbers, different things that happen within them. Anytime she talks about 8, she's talking about this one.
Nucleus is temporarily non-corporeal in Pocket Universe Lab 75.
She's talking about 75 right there. Another thing that you'll see a lot of inside the game is that these mugs, that there's a lot of different variations, different colors, they say different things on them, and they're randomly populated all throughout the entire lab. Some of them are way high up, some of them are underneath things. They seem to be very intentionally placed. And there's really nothing besides the dog that will interact with them. Like, the dog will retrieve it when you throw it around in different locations. Sometimes they're up on top of the shelf where you can't reach them and you have to knock them down. Now there is one interactable prop that you can find in here that is very unique, and it always appears right here. And this is a little jar with a little paper dude inside it. And there doesn't seem to be any purpose for it. It's right behind the Archery game. I don't really see the direct connection between it, and it's always right there. The game doesn't acknowledge its existence for any other, unlike any of the other things here. And you can't break it. Dog will retrieve it. That's really the only way that the game acknowledges that it exists. Tried hitting it with things. Tried shooting it with the arrow. I've tried everything I can with it. There doesn't seem to be anything that you can do with them. You hit it against your face. So here's one mystery that could just be for decoration, but we don't really know what it's for. And there's all these different posters around the entire lab that I don't know if there's any kind of underlying meaning that says don't hang in there, ground yourself. These posters all seem to be the same every time. You can interact with these. Seems that the most you can do is just cause electrical sparks. It doesn't affect anything else.
Universe Lab 8. Congratulations to Pocket Universe Lab 8.
Once you complete the anatomical human body scan experiment, you get this skull that you can play with and throw around.
Relevant to their corresponding experiments. Throwing them makes it harder to read them. Exploding in type 1 and type 4
Doesn't seem to be anything that you can do to interact with this besides look at it. When you complete this experiment, you get the globe that can be found on the table over there. Now the table of all of the items here are probably the best bet that we'll have for any sort of future secrets or mysteries throughout the game, because when you pick some of these up, like the bow for example, the environment reacts to it, and all these targets come out of the boxes and balloons start rising in the air, so clearly there's more to do with the more that you unlock. You can knock the boxes off of the conveyor belt. You can hit the targets. You can hit the balloons. And you can hit the characters.
Pocket Universe Lab 8. Please take a mandatory moment of reflection to review Appendix B, subsection 5 of your Workplace Safety Protocol Manual.
And you can hit all of the characters.
Attention test traveler in Pocket Universe Lab 8. Carry on. Workplace accident has occurred in Pocket Universe Lab 8.
When you hit the targets, it doesn't actually seem to do anything in particular. The arrow will stick into it.
Congratulations,
but that's about it. And the boxes with the targets do not come off of the conveyor belt when you hit them, unlike the ones without the targets that can get knocked straight off. And the characters that are way in the distance, you cannot hit those no matter how far back you pull, how high in the air that you try to shoot. And occasionally you'll see a guy floating around attached to a balloon way back there. And no matter how far you try to shoot, you cannot hit the guy as far as I can tell. So the bow is most likely involved in something else because there's just so many interactions that it has with the environment. And I've tried shooting the forklift guy over and over again, and I've never been able to actually hit him. And over here on this side of the lab, there's a lot more things that you can shoot. There's more of the little paper dudes. I don't believe you can hit the guy that's way up there. think he's too far away, but you can hit these.
Cleanup needed in Pocket Universe Lab 8. Please be discreet.
I
Attention test traveler in Pocket Universe Lab 8. What are you doing?
Now the next most interesting interactable tool on the table here is this flyable drone that you get from the arcade game over there. You can pick up the drone, you can move it around, you can toss it in the air, and you can steer it with the remote. And it's a really fun thing to steer around. You can move slowly, you can turn around, you can go quickly, you can fly it into yourself and catch it, and you can also shoot with it.
Please report to Pocket Universe Lab 8. Unit exit vehicle.
Now you can fly this way into the distance. So the likelihood that this would lead to more content somehow is probably even higher than the bow, because you can actually get way into the background with this. But by the time it gets that far back, you're looking at literally 5 or 6 pixels on your screen, so you gotta really keep track of where it is. I just want to point out right here is that I've flown the drone right up to the guy with the balloon, and I'm shooting him, flying through him, doing everything I can, and I still can't seem to interact with him.
Attention test traveler in Pocket Universe Lab 8. Please explain yourself.
As you can see there, that the forklift drives straight through the drone as if it's not even there, so I'm pretty sure you can't actually do anything to the forklift guy. Now if you look here, that this elevator door opens occasionally, and the drone is not able to go inside the elevator. You also see that the dog is able to go well beyond the bounds that I can move. And the dog will follow the drone around, so in a sense you're remotely controlling the dog.
Attention test traveler in Pocket Universe Lab 8. Carry on. Frankly, amazing aim detected in Pocket Universe Lab 8.
So I guess what I have to say about the drone is just that this probably is able to do something else in this area. I mean, they give you control over it here, and you can fly it around and you can shoot the characters, and you can interact with stuff in a similar manner as the bow, but there's bound to be something else that can be done with it here. And it's also worth noting that you can actually shoot with the drone while it's in your hand, so if there's a target that you really need to hit accurately, you could just steer it like this. Here's the rhythm core. And I'm not entirely sure where it's getting the rhythms from. It's not perfectly consistent. It seems to change slightly. Not sure why it stopped just now either. Now here's an item that's available immediately right when you play lab for the first time, when you have none of these as marked as completed, and it's a balloon creator. And you can shoot little ones out, or if you hold it up all the way, they'll explode. And you can hit them around, and you can choose what color you want. It looks like it'll randomly pick another one, another color. And these balloons will eventually hit the ceiling and pop on their own, or you can shoot your own balloons. The other items at the table here are ones from the other activities from around here. Like here's Atlas from Robot Repair. Doesn't do anything other than just exist as a physics object, and the dog will chase Atlas around just like anything else, and he'll bring it back to you. And I don't know enough about Dota to know what this is, but this is from the secret shop.
Congratulations to Pocket Universe Lab 8.
And this bone is from the scanning body slice kind of thing. Looks like a femur. And it's a very low gravity bone, apparently. And here's the earth that comes from this activity over here. And it bounces more than all the other things. And if you shoot it with an arrow, it really goes flying. And stuff will respawn eventually, I believe.
Approach the calibration unit and begin calibrating cores.
Now here's a few interesting things that you can do from within the slingshot game, besides actually just playing the game and knocking the stuff down.
And begin calibrating cores.
It very intentionally allows you to get back here next to this conveyor belt. You can actually grab onto any of these, and you can throw them around, and the game acknowledges
this is unauthorized equipment.
That you're picking up these items, these kind of garbage turrets, and empty cores.
The cores you need,
and you can throw it around.
The calibration unit is not, this is unauthorized. Good. That is good. That is unauthorized. Good. Your most important and only job as a calibration trainee is to calibrate cores in the calibration unit. To do so, that is unauthorized.
And you cannot actually load these into the catapult. I've tried doing everything that I can to make them interact with the regular gameplay in any way that I could, but I could not figure out a way to do that. And beyond just the conveyor belt thing, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot else that you can actually do here. I mean, there are like little green lights up around that I have a feeling that are just decoration. You can take these and you can put them in the boxes. You can... The physics are really wonky with them.
Good. That is unauthorized. Good. Approach the calibration unit.
And you can pull all of them off of the conveyor belt if you want.
That is good. That is unauthorized. Good. That is unauthorized. Good. That is unauthorized. Good.
And there must be a hard limit to when it will actually stop.
That is unauthorized. Good. That is unauthorized. Good. That is unauthorized. Good. Approach the calibration unit. That is unauthorized equipment. Good.
So I've pulled off as many as it will allow.
Calibration unit.
And watch what happens as soon as you turn around. It resets them all, or most of them.
Approach the calibration unit.
So the game is definitely aware of the direction that you're looking. So events can happen as a result of you looking in a different direction. And there is a little on-off switch over there. I've tried throwing things at it before.
Approach the calibration. That is unauthorized. Good.
And it doesn't seem to do anything. I've also tried throwing these back into those holes before, and there's an invisible wall there that actually stops it from going over.
Approach the calibration unit. That is unauthorized. Good.
These are very hard to throw. There. See, it bounces off like an invisible wall.
Approach the...
Now here within the human body scan, there's very limited gameplay. The whole point is just to show you that you can do this sort of slicing technology in VR, which the demo in itself is amazing and I love it. But in terms of potential for there being any sort of hidden content inside here, it's really limited because this is all that you do. Just pick a region and you move this up and down. and you slice through it. And I've tried going to the outer bounds and looking inside, or looking outside, and it's black all the way around. Seems to be no other content inside this demo. Now here we are within the solar system demo, and there's pretty limited interactivity within this too. I mean, it's an awesome looking demo, but there isn't a whole lot that you can do. You can pick up any of the planets, you can toss them around, and they'll bounce off of the sun, which is very unfortunate. I've tried taking all of the planets off of their little spindles here, tried tossing them all into the sun, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything. So really the only interesting thing that I've found with this demo is, let's see, to back up a little bit here, wait. So if I get really close to the sun, you'll notice the sound that it makes. And if I actually go inside the sun, this noise gets more intense. And that's scary in itself, but that's really the only interesting thing that I've found. For the robot repair demo here, you can interact with this arm, and if you grab it with the other hand, other controller, you can flip the light on and off. It's not an actual, oh, maybe it is an actual light. Yeah, it is. Okay, that's interesting.
Hello, repair associate, and welcome to the Robot Rehabilitation and Wellness Center.
And sometimes there'll be a mug underneath it.
Hello, repair associate, and welcome to the Robot Rehabilitation and Wellness Center. Our records indicate that you are the inaugural participant in our Human Diversity Outreach Program. You are holding dual aperture science prosthetic multi-tools. Please charge them in the multi-tool charging station.
Now, the robot repair demo hasn't been changed much since its
Please
original
locate
inception.
the charging station and charge your multi-tools.
And people have ripped this demo apart. They've looked at all the textures and looked at all kinds of content that's in here, and there really hasn't been anything all that exciting. I mean, clearly it's extremely detailed, and you can't interact with any of this, which is a huge shame, because I would love to.
Charge your multi-tools at the charging station.
But I do believe that this Aperture Pocket Universe Management Station, that this must have been changed since the original demo, because this whole Pocket Universe thing, as far as I know, didn't exist until the lab came out. So it's possible that this machine here was altered with the lab, which is a lot of detail that goes into this.
Please locate the charging station and charge your multi-tools. Charge your multi-tools at the charging station.
A little trick that you'll get used to doing in order to explore demos like this as much as you can is when you walk is to the opposite end of your space, and then you locomote as close to you can to a wall, and then you actually just walk through the wall, which is a little strange. It feels weird, but sometimes to be rewarded with
multi-tools at the
interesting
charging station.
content. And I'll be getting screenshots of all of these, so don't try to squint to read everything that you see here. As you can see, I'm not meant to be back here at all. And my space is going to limit me pretty bad. So I'm not able to get over here as closely as I'd like.
Charge your multi-tools at the charging station.
Most of the items back here actually just seem to be assets from Portal 2. I don't think they're unique for this demo. So here's another example. You can walk straight through this wall. Oh God. And it's actually quite frightening. Something that Valve does a lot of is loading and
tools at the charging station.
Valve does a lot of loading and unloading of assets. So normally this entire room would be loaded in. This is where Atlas and Peabody are sitting in the demo, but right now it's just a really frightening high up space that I feel like I'm going to fall over. And if you look at the black in the background, that as I rotate my head, stuff is loading and unloading relative to the direction of my head. It looks like it's happening up there too. You can see GLaDOS a little bit outside the world here, and this is quite scary actually. And when you're exploring content, always get down on your knees and crawl around, look up and under things, especially in Valve-made games. They usually put a crazy amount of detail in things. You're probably not going to have any kind of interactivity on items in game and things like this, but it's worth trying.
Good. Your multi-tools have been fully irradiated. Please remove your radiation suit at this time. No suit detected. Good.
Something you'll notice too is that the camera actually follows your hand back and forth. Looks like it's just the left hand. It doesn't care about my right hand. And on the clock, it looks like the second hand is passing, but I don't believe the minute and hour actually
Locate
is.
and open a drawer.
Actually, this clock, according to my watch, is showing my current time as I record this. So that's very interesting. Is there a time-related element to this? Could changing your system clock and replaying this at a certain time do something? Probably not. Here's more examples of loading and unloading of content that, you know that there's a lot of stuff that's going to be inside these drawers. But here, watch, the instant that I grab this is when it will actually load it. Yep, see, now it's loaded.
Good. You have now practiced on 2 incorrect drawers. Please open the correct drawer.
Now this is the most interesting one of all.
Please keep pulling.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I just waved my hand in front of it and it loaded it. So now I can do this clipping method and get a better look at what's going on in the scene. This is a very detailed and interesting scene.
Please keep pulling. Please keep pulling. Good. As explained in your orientation, you should, of course, never look directly into the drawer. Room sensors indicate you are currently looking directly into the drawer. You have just interfered with an Aperture Science Pocket Universe cabinet. You are now their god. Close the drawer to initiate Contaminated Pocket Universe Contingency Protocol. Please locate the service bay door lever and pull it.
So now waving my hand next to the switch actually loaded all of these assets. So I definitely
and pull the lever.
want to get inside there and take as thorough of a look as I can. Wish I had a bigger space. Wow. This feels so strange. It's like you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be, but when you're in VR, it feels like something bad is going to happen to you. Like you have a heightened feeling of fear that you're trespassing. You got Peabody sitting back there, got a TV that's flashing, got a bunch of QR codes on a chart, got a map, some kind of interfacing device for the back of someone's head, got a painting over here with like mannequins and things sitting around, and I can't actually do anything in this room.
Now serving 1.
And then it unloads.
As you can see from the schematic,
All of his interior parts just loaded. Everything is collapsed inside there.
Advanced electromechanical engineering.
It's anticipating me pulling it apart.
Attach your multi-tool to its faceplate and pull as forcefully as you may hear what sounds to a human like mechanical screaming. But rest assured, while robots feel pain, they cannot express it. Good. Please locate and press the button marked.
There's just an insane amount of detail that goes into this. Can't even begin to read everything that's here.
Unless its electrostatic ion reactor is uncoupled from
A lot of repeated elements.
733E, and only if oxidization valves A, C, F, and H1, but not H3, are asymmetric, the turbopump exhaust manifold case failure. Please take your time, up to 30 seconds, at which point the thermoreactor currently uncoupled from its heat exchange unit will detonate. Alert klaxon deployed. Again, take your time. 15 seconds. 15-second klaxon deployed.
So now teleportation is disabled
All
here.
responsibilities have been removed or listed responsibilities.
But I'm willing to bet, yeah, that everything's just unlocked.
I don't believe it. What kind of robot can't handle the simplest? Oh, it's you.
And this is just as
Congratulations on
freaky
your
as
quota-filling
always.
promotion, by the way. You've opened all our eyes to what humans can achieve when you put your tiny little minds to it.
Repair station recycling initiated. For your own safety, please vacate this station immediately.
Don't listen to him, you'll be fine. Also, let's be honest. Your first day's been a bit of a disaster. It's probably not the worst thing if you died.
I would love to just walk around out there and see what all is actually there.
Repair station recycling in progress.
I want you to know at first I was against this human diversity outreach program. But now, watching you flail around like a sweaty pile of ham, I see I was wrong. It's hilarious. Honestly, I think you're overqualified for robot repair. I've got a better assignment for you.
Repair station recycling completed. Thank you for your participation.
That's a recording. He has to say that. Goodbye.
There isn't a whole lot to see in the archery demo. I mean, you're in a room that looks like this, and you can look through the curtains if you have a large enough space, and you'll see that you're just in the regular spherical infinite space as everything else. I've checked all the corners and it's the same all the way around. And then you just got the regular old demo. Now in the Zortex demo, you can't actually teleport around. You have this little space. If you have enough room, you can look outside of it, which it's just black all the way around as far as I know. And I won't actually play the game, but this is all there seems to be to it. It's just this model surrounding you, and then the little interactive elements. Now the secret shop seems to be identical to how it was pre-consumer version 1 release, but I'll take a look around anyway. This is the area that you're able to move around, and it's a pretty limited space. And this one does have a world that's going on outside of it.
There you are.
So you can see there's like eyes looking at you, and sometimes you can see models spawn in before they become visible here.
I am a terrible host. Here, take my life. I know my way around well enough without it. Don't be
Quite
afraid.
scary looking outside these walls.
There is plenty to see. All you have to do is look. But don't be surprised if something looks back. Treasures may hide in even the darkest corners. I was just closing up, but don't let that concern you. When it's time for lights out, well, you'll see. Well, I have a few deliveries. Oh, yeah.
And this demo has a lot of elements that react to where your eyes are looking. Now, in terms of peeking outside of walls within the main lab area here, there's a couple interesting things. You can see a little beyond what you would normally see, and there's characters that are out of bounds. Like you can see the forklift guy waiting there, and he was just teleported somewhere. So you can see that. Then here on the other side, you can see a little more detail of just the amount of these recording devices or whatever, and the characters standing around. Not all. Now over here on the back wall, you'll see some more of this hallway, and you'll see that there is a guy that's just sitting down there. I don't know if it's one that's scripted to come in later, but he doesn't have any sort of white outline. He's just kind of sitting there alone. And I have sat here and looked at him for quite a while, and I don't ever see him spawn anywhere. So my mystery investigation mind would like to think that he appears in a sequence that we have not seen yet, but we don't know that for sure. It is interesting to note the presence of that character, though. Now here's when things start to get real interesting in terms of the potential for there to be hidden content beyond what we've already seen inside the lab. That there is this door that's here, and when you go up to it, listen to what the announcer says when you try to open the door. First of all, it lets you interact with it.
Behind you is a vast continuum of undiscovered worlds. In front of you is a supply closet. If your experiments require paper clips, we will give you a key.
If your experiments require paper clips, we'll give you a key. So it is just funny that there is this door. You can walk through it.
You are attempting to leave the confines of the test lab. Lift only lane. No foot traffic is permitted beyond this point.
So it's a secret door, or a door that you're not supposed to go through.
Dark matter engineers needed for symmetric expansion.
No, I can only go so far because of my chaperone bounds, but see the dude that crashed into the wall is sitting right there. We got these two recorders. I can't move to anything over here. The dog can't even get over here. Occasionally characters will move from side to side. And that's about all that we know about this little door. This is cool to note that there is this little secret space. Now, occasionally when the calibration gets screwed up with the headset, it'll actually put me underground. So what you're seeing right here is directly below the lab. Like my hands right now are reaching into the floor. So this is another perspective. You can see that they have the 2D skybox that goes all the way around. That kind of looks like the shipping containers. You can see the illusion broken about the boxes that go back and forth and little balls that go inside the boxes and they move around like that. Some of the pillars actually go through the floor. And we got that guy. And this calibration error has happened before to me when I had the bow in my hand, and I tried shooting the guy and there wasn't any sort of interactions with that. Now finally, we have the only actual secret. Actual, just usable secret in the game is when you are choosing which one of these worlds that you want to visit, you unplug this, put it into the valve. It's as simple as that. I think you can actually like rotate this whenever it feels like rotating right. Well, that spins around, so you plug it into that, and you take this, teleport to it, Valve Demo Room 1. Now the rooms that you're about to see were ones that were used to create the Vive. You'll see the early experiments that were done. And now when you're in this room, you'll see that they have these things that are called fiducials that are all over the walls. This was the early room tracking technology. And you can actually see the first prototype of the Vive right here. And you can see that it talks about it in the clipboard. It said that they actually just used some customized cell phones placed over your eyes with wiring that went all throughout. So this is the first version of the Vive. Just toss it on the ground. This room was scanned with photogrammetry, so this is exactly what the room looked like, and it maybe still looks like. Remember Chet telling a story in one of the interviews about how they actually, when they're proposing the idea for the Vive to HTC, they had all of these fiducials, these pieces of paper were all piled up in a big stack. They had all this equipment with, and they just like flew out to Taiwan, and they had a room in one of their offices where they just threw these all over the walls, and they had this prototype, and they had the people try it on and see the technology for themselves. And it must have impressed them enough that the connection between HTC and Valve became a thing. And long story short, it became the Vive that we know today. Well, anyway, so when you're in this room, you can see that there's a lot of detail. You can see the actual computer, and you can see that these are like facial wipes for things. You can even see behind the office chair. You can hear the computer fan, which is a cool extra detail. So now that beeping sound that you hear is a weird little mini game. You have this ping pong paddle. VR alarm. VR! It does say aperture on it, that's interesting. So now these fiducials will open up and they'll start flinging these little ping pong balls at you or whatever. They're actually metallic. Now, there doesn't seem to be a particular goal as far as we know. It might just be a goofy little, like, hey, let's give the player something to find. And this hole opens up on the ground, and they'll all eventually gravitate towards the hole. And as you can see, they're metallic looking. Sort of like something out of Aperture. And you can't pick them up individually. And now this is one of the details that I wanted to point out too, is that when you go right up next to walls and you look behind, that you'll notice that there isn't anything behind these, yet you see that there's these models. So this is more of the thing that Valve can load and unload content selectively. So just because you don't see something, just because you don't see something behind a wall doesn't mean that it's not there. You just need to trigger something that will make it appear. So when these fold up, watch what happens. Boom. They're all gone. So I'd have no reason to believe that this could even move had this animation not triggered. It is interesting that that shadow appears the way it does over there, because I don't recall anything happening right there. So it kind of leads me to believe that there might be something that happens on this wall. Oh, there is like an aperture sign that appears back here. So there could be more to this room than we realize. And I don't really know. I mean, maybe these have to be deflected into maybe the lamp here. These are quite hard to catch. Like you can't just pick it up. So there is potentially something that could happen on this wall here. Maybe when you get the little deflective balls, you can get them into the lamps, or I don't know, something like that. But when you take this prototype Vive here, and you put it on your head, you can go to the next generation of VR, which was a different office at Valve that looks like this. This is another room that was scanned in with photogrammetry. You can even see that it's running in the background. So, whoa! And then Atlas here. And this just tells you about that this was where the next generation of lighthouse room tracking was done here. Now you can walk around this area too. I mean, your bounds are limited to here, but you can do this walking thing where you go through the walls. And it feels like you're going places you shouldn't. You can kind of see, you can see where like the photogrammetry breaks down. You can see some boxes. There's like a TV. It says Valve Corp on the box. I think that is that big screen Steam running over there. See how I could do this. Can I look out the window? Look into the other office. And the only thing that you can do in here, as far as we know, is to hit the VR alarm, pull it down, and balloons. And then when you press the triggers, and if that's not efficient enough for you, you push the grips and you got lasers. Now this whole sequence will reset, so now the balloons will come down again. And, but notice that this is here again. There's this aperture screen. I'm wondering if they meant to put some sort of interactive little game in here, but they didn't fully program it in. So that's one mystery to all of these rooms that we don't fully understand. So now I've showed you around the lab and all the little weird extra details that you probably didn't know about, and maybe got some leads onto where we might start looking for more content. It could be as simple as like shoot every single character in the lab here and something happens, or fly the drone in a certain place and something happens. So if you have a Vive, try playing with the bow and the drone and try taking it to strange places, flying it around, and remember that if there is more content, you probably don't access it through glitching through walls and miscalibrating stuff and cheating the system like that. It's probably something along these lines, you know, where you plug it into a different thing and then you turn it on. So think of the conventions that have been set here with moving around through this system. You know, we got the dog that can retrieve physics things. The dog can go outside the bounds. The drone can go outside the bounds. You got arrows and posters that tell you different directions to go. You got these images that change each time. You can draw on the whiteboard. You can interact with the electrical things here. You got all these mugs that are all over the place that appear in random locations. You got this guy back here, which you can't seem to do much with. You can't break it out of here. So we got some things to work with, and I hope we can discover more content. So thank you for watching my little tour around the lab. Hope you don't mind that the game crashed 12 or 15 times in the making of it. But I got everything in here, so let me know if there's anything that you'd like me to test if you don't have a Vive. And if you do have a Vive and you find any new interesting things about the game, let me know. You can comment on a YouTube video below. I have a Twitch stream, twitch.tv/the_monotonist. And I'm on Twitter as The Monotonist. And also on Reddit as The_monotonist. So thank you for watching the video, and happy hunting.